So I had been writing a video this week talking about the 5 reasons why I was debating on whether or not to sell my PlayStation 5, and then during the week that I was writing this video, Sony, I guess, officially announced, or at least started giving people hands-on with, the new PlayStation Portal. And from what I've seen, in my opinion, Dwayne?
It's the biggest piece of dog shit.
Yeah, I have quite a few opinions about this already, and I'm sure I'm going to have more opinions as more videos about it come out and as we get more information and inevitably once it comes out as a product. But for now, I'm going to just take my current opinions and try to encapsulate them all in this video. So let's dive in. First off, what is the PlayStation Portal? Well, it is a $200 PlayStation companion or accessory or controller with a screen, whatever you want to call it, and it is just that. It is a DualSense controller that has been cut in half and they put a big old 8-inch screen in the middle. But that is pretty much where the similarities between the Steam Deck or the Switch end, because for $200 I did say that this is a companion device or an accessory to the PlayStation, and that's because it is. It needs the PlayStation to function. It streams the games from the PS5 to the handheld, so you have to have a PlayStation 5 for this to function, raising the price from either the 400 discless or 500 disc version to $700 at the most expensive. Yikes. But they also made things like the PlayStation VR, which costs as much as the console, so this seems kind of like a bargain, but don't worry, we'll get to why I don't like it in a minute. Getting back to what it is, this is another way to stream your games from the PS5 to a handheld device. I say another way because it seems to use a similar, if not the same kind of platform that Sony's app already uses, the Remote Play app that actually lets you stream games from the PlayStation to your phone. We'll talk more about that again in a bit. Now, obviously, this device will let you stream games from the PS5 to the Portal over your local Wi-Fi network, but it does, at least from what I can tell, also allow you to stream it when you're not in front of the PS5. However, you do need a Wi-Fi network to do it. There's no cellular option, so you'll have to either use your hotspot from your phone, if that's an option, or maybe hook it up to McDonald's free Wi-Fi, though I don't know how the latency or speed would be on that, but one way or another, this device has to be on Wi-Fi to get the data from your PS5, which is fair enough because cloud gaming is basically the same way, so there's nothing really new there. So essentially what Sony's made is a $200 Wii U controller for the PS5 with the added benefit of going and pairing it to another Wi-Fi network and playing your game somewhere else, at least from what I can tell. And if that isn't the case, then they literally made a $200 Wii U controller for the PS5. And this is where we start getting into the things that I question and why I think that this is
Dog shit.
Yeah. So I don't mind the DualSense controller part of it. In fact, I think the DualSense controller, aside from having an integrated rechargeable battery instead of a removable battery pack, is a good controller. The battery is the only downside to that controller, in my opinion. I think that it is the most next-generation controller that we have because the Switch has just all kinds of stick drift issues, and the Xbox controller hasn't changed since the original Xbox One announcement. So yes, I do like the DualSense controller side. However, my first big issue comes when we look at what is between the two halves of this DualSense controller. Now, to Sony's credit, from everything that I could find, it seems like this is the biggest screen that we have on a portable gaming device. This is an 8-inch screen. It's 1080p, so it is a higher resolution than the Switch or the Steam Deck, and it's 60 Hz, which is acceptable. But what isn't acceptable, in my opinion, at this price point, is the fact that it is an LCD display, not an OLED. Like, considering that there is no local processing on this device, I can't imagine that adding an OLED would have raised the cost of manufacturing by much. And Sony's calibration of OLED displays is legendary. Their Bravia series is phenomenal. Those TVs look incredible. Can you imagine if they had put an OLED onto this device? That would have been amazing. And it's an 8-inch screen, so it wouldn't have been that expensive. They did it with the Vita. That had an OLED screen. And even Nintendo is winning in that category with the Switch OLED, which, to be fair, the Switch OLED is a $350 console, but you can also play games locally on it. And, well, you want to talk about exclusive Sony? I don't know, Tears of the Kingdom's looking pretty good. So on the plus side, we get an 8-inch display, which is about an inch bigger than any of the competition right now. That's actually really good. We get a 1080p display, which is reasonable. I'm not too upset about that. I do wish that we would have gotten a higher resolution just to take advantage of the PlayStation's hardware, but I'm not going to cry over 1080p on a remote device. And we get an acceptable frame rate at 60 Hz. Those are all fine. The biggest issue is that it is still an LCD display, and for $200, I feel like with no onboard processing, they could have eked out putting an OLED display on this thing, especially considering that we have the Switch OLED, which is just, yeah. When it comes to battery life on this device, Sony told CNET that this should get about the same battery life as a PS5 controller, and I doubt that. And also, that's not a consistent number, let's be real. The PS5 controller for me has been such a hit or miss when it comes to battery life, because if I'm playing a game like Astro's Playroom or Gran Turismo, which both rely pretty heavily on the haptic triggers and a lot of, well, haptics, I will get this thing to die in about 2 to 3 hours. And I feel like if you are running a device like this, an 8-inch screen where the whole thing is backlit because it's not OLED, and you have all those fancy haptics, you're going to drain that battery, especially on games like Astro's Playroom and Gran Turismo. You might get some longer battery life when you play some games that don't have the same level of haptics, but either way, just driving an entire display, I know there will be a battery that will compensate for that display, but how much will it compensate for that display? And will it actually match a PS5 controller? I doubt it. And the battery on the PS5 controller was one of the reasons why I was debating on selling my PS5, because, well, I bought a PS4 controller and the battery was dead, and it's integrated, which means that I have to tear the whole thing apart to replace the battery, whereas unless I'm using the Elite controller from Xbox, I can just pop some AA's out, throw some new AA's in, and there we go. And I don't have to worry about recharging my controller after every play session. But that's a sneak peek into what is now next week's video. Let's get back to this video. So the battery life for the Portal is either going to be really good, if you go by Sony's word, if you go by most people's experience with the PlayStation controller, or total garbage if you're using a haptic-heavy game and it has the same battery life as the controller with a really heavy haptic game. I'm going to play it realistic and say it's somewhere between absolute garbage and but I guess we'll see when it comes out. During my research, I couldn't find a whole lot about the speakers, but judging by the performance of Sony speakers in their phones, I have some pretty high expectations for these, even with it being a $200 device. And hell, I wouldn't even be mad if they pulled an Apple and said that it can somehow do full surround sound with your games out of 2 speakers, though I kind of doubt they'll do that, but I do hope that these are at least decent speakers. I mean, at least on par with the Switch, but I guess we'll see. But if the speakers aren't good, you can use the 3.5mm jack on the bottom next to the USB-C port. Thank you for using USB-C for charging, and thank you for putting a headphone jack on it at all, and putting it on the bottom of the device. Putting the headphone jack on the bottom of the device is actually a bigger deal than I think most people consider, because when I used the Switch on the go, I would have to plug the headphone jack in at the top and loop it under the device and run it up to your ears, and it was kind of irritating because it always felt like there was something back by your hands and it never quite went away. And I was extremely happy when you were finally able to pair Bluetooth headphones to the Switch, because that wasn't an issue anymore. But now you can just run whatever headphones you want to use into that jack at the bottom. The cord is out of the way and you can just run it straight out of the bottom of the device into your ears. And speaking of using any headphones you want, the aux jack is the only way to do that, because this is the last reason why I am not thrilled about this device. According to CNET, this has Bluetooth. According to MKBHD, this doesn't have Bluetooth. And according to your average consumer who actually had hands-on with this device, it only pairs with PlayStation's Sony Link compatible headphones. Actually, Mark has talked about that too, but yeah, that's the problem that I have with this. That's the biggest problem I have with this. I don't really like throwing out the word anti-consumer too much, because I feel like it's really lost its bite, because for some people, anti-consumer means that any device that isn't built with giant Phillips head screws that can be completely disassembled down to its core and then still let you claim the warranty is anti-consumer. That's what some people kind of believe, or the extreme version of that. And other people, like me, believe that you shouldn't have to void your warranty to replace a fully dead battery that was integrated into a controller, like the PS5 controller. I believe that's more realistic than the other one that I just mentioned, but what I do believe is that locking a device that, according to CNET, has Bluetooth to just your brand of headphones is extremely anti-consumer. Like, it was completely dumb when the Switch did it. I think that that really shouldn't have even been as long of a wait as it was to just get Bluetooth headphone compatibility on the Switch. And when it did finally come out, everybody was kind of like, oh, well, it should have had that at launch. And I agree. But to not include Bluetooth or not include any wireless headphone pairing at all is one thing. To allow it, but only with your own stuff, is so ridiculous. And I think that that is probably my biggest issue with that, because I want to take a device on the go with me, even if I have to pair it up to my hotspot to play the games. But I want to be able to use something like my AirPods or my Sony Link Buds, which might be compatible. I don't know if they're actually Link compatible, but if they're not, that would be the peak of irony. But the point is that I use a wired headset when I'm at home, and I don't have to worry about things interfering with the cord. So if I'm on the go, I'm not going to take a wired set of headphones with me, and I just want to use what I regularly use. I will frequently put my Bluetooth headphones, specifically my AirPods, into pairing mode and hook them up to my Switch when I'm traveling, and then switch them back to my iPhone whenever I'm done. And I don't find that very inconvenient, because I get to use a really nice set of headphones paired to my mobile gaming device, and then I can just switch them back to my other device so that they're not just there for one piece of equipment. Doesn't seem like you can do that with this, and I hope that they rectify that, but until then, I am definitely not buying one. What I did buy for portable gaming, or bought a while ago and have been using pretty regularly, is my Switch Lite. This is a $199 console, and yes, it is significantly less powerful than a PS5. No shit, it's a handheld device, but I will get 4 to 5 hours of battery life playing this. I get incredible exclusives from Nintendo, as terrible of a company as they are. I got mine pretty cheap because it was broken and I fixed it. Again, anti-consumerism, repairability, I fixed it myself. And you get access to a ton of really cool indie games and just a bunch of games in general. I've been playing through Final Fantasy VII on this, not the new fancy remake, but the original that I grew up with, and I love it. So this has been my go-to for on-system handheld gaming. And I do also have something for remote play gaming, and this is probably going to be an alternative for a lot of people. This little guy right here is the Razer Kishi. This is the older version of the Razer Kishi. I actually had to kind of modify it so that it would work with my new iPhone, because I didn't want to buy the new one because I already had the old one. But this actually hooks up to a phone, in this case an iPhone, and you just put your phone in it, like so. Phone in one side, take it, put the next one, just like that. And now, your phone, Android, iPhone, whatever, this is now a handheld gaming device. You can stream a game with it using Steam Link, Xbox xCloud, or whatever it's called. You can also use Sony's own remote play. So, yeah, you're not getting an 8-inch screen, but you are getting an OLED. Yeah, you gotta use your phone, but who doesn't use their phone on a regular basis anyway? This is just another task for your phone to do. And this little guy right here, the newest version, is $100 for the non-specific brand one, and I think it's $119 if you get the Xbox one, and I think it's also $119 for the PlayStation one. But the point is, you buy this, put your phone in it, and get the same or a similar experience, and you compare your damn headphones to it. It just irritates me to see a device like the PlayStation Portal where it seems like Sony is doing the bare minimum while giving us a device with a ton of potential. The PS Vita was an incredible console. Any PlayStation Portable device with local play possibilities was fantastic. I loved the PSP, loved the Vita, and we clearly still love handheld gaming with local gaming. None of this cloud crap. And the only reason I play cloud stuff is because I can do it on my cell phone. You need a Wi-Fi connection for this. And when I say this has a lot of potential, I mean that you have the best controller of any current generation console, and I would even loop VR into that. You have the best controller of any current generation console cut in half with the biggest screen of any portable gaming device on the market right now, and yet you didn't give it any guts. There's no local game possibilities, and that is so frustrating. And then you just kept making it worse by giving us an LCD display instead of one of your fantastically calibrated OLEDs, and you locked us to your headphones, which I've used your headphones. The over-ear ones make my ears sweat way too much, and the in-ear ones, I have not had the best luck with your in-ear headphones. I've tried your WX1000 SM4s or XM4s or whatever the naming scheme is for those, and they are too heavy for my ears. So I don't have a lot of hope for those, but if I ever, which I probably won't, but if I ever buy one of these, I'm going to have to play wired instead of wireless. That's so frustrating. Getting a bit too ranty here, let me reel it back into the script. The point is that if Sony had actually put more effort into this and maybe charged $150, maybe even $200 more for this, we could have gotten what a lot of us have been asking for, which is a successor to the PlayStation Vita, a handheld gaming console, not a handheld accessory. And the fact that you didn't give us the option to pair our own headphones and didn't give us an OLED, all those things combined just shows that you're doing the bare minimum to make an accessory for a console that you're banking on instead of being... It's not even experimental because you know it'll work. You're just being complacent and saying that the PS5 is good enough, and if you want more, I guess just get more accessories for the PS5, but we want to take our games with us and not have to be tethered to Wi-Fi. We want to be able to play some of your legendary exclusives and not have to rely on a direct connection in one form or another to a completely different device doing the processing. We want a PSP. We want a PS Vita. Maybe next time give us that instead of this. But for now, those are my opinions on the PS Portal, PlayStation Portal, PS5 Portal, whatever it's called. I think it's just the PlayStation Portal. But those are my thoughts for now. I'm sure they're going to evolve over time as we see more videos. But for now... You want to say it one more time, Dwayne?
It's the biggest piece of dog shit.
Yeah, so I'm not going to be buying one. I really don't think you should either, but that's entirely up to you. I think you should probably put that money into something like a Switch Lite to get some really good exclusives on a device that you can pair your headphones to and take on the go and play games locally, or even use Sony's own service with something like the Razer Kishi, spend half that money, and just hook your phone up to it. Because you can still play Sony games. You can still play games straight off your PlayStation, but you have a cell connection. Either way, those are my thoughts. Let me know what you all think down in the comments below. Some calm, rational discussion. Hopefully we don't have too many Sony ponies going nuts down there. If you did like this video, make sure to give it a like so that more people can see it. You can share your opinions, again, down below with more people if you like it. And of course, if you don't want to miss more content like this, be sure to subscribe and maybe hit that bell. Mine works sometimes. Sometimes it doesn't. Hopefully it works better for you. But either way, that's been it. Thank you all so much for watching this video, and I hope to see you all in the next one. Thanks for watching, and have a good one.